as I mentioned before, something that I was unaware of, which is a nice way to put it, I would say ignorant of is a more accurate way to describe it. And that is that when I mentioned that when we start out as grapes, as children, right,
Mm.
85% water by volume, and we end up at 65% water in old age as raisins, you could look at that process of aging as being a process of dehydration, or at least, those two travel together. What I didn't know even after that was, but I've come to understand, is that we lose silica over the course of our lifetimes as well. And so at the end of life, it's fair to say, I think, silica deficient. Now, what's the ramification of that? So it turns out silica, and let me just be a little geeky here, because if you look in the periodic table, silicon is the element that's identified there. However, silicon, like hydrogen as an example, do not like to be on their own. I call them lonely bachelors. And they really like to be coupled, right? So hydrogen likes to couple to, water, to oxygen, for example, and make water, or hydrocarbons or whatever. It turns out silica is in the same boat. And so naturally occurring silicon is bound up almost always with another molecule, most often oxygen. So it's in the form of what's referred to as silica dioxide, SiO2, right? For those that are love chemistry. And so silica dioxide, or silica for short, is actually a trace mineral that is critical for human beings, plants and animals. In human beings, it's the basis for skin, hair, teeth, our connective tissue, collagen, our extracellular matrix. Um, Silica binds to the uh, walls of our arteries and blood vessels and capillaries to help with blood flow. Um, it's known to be beneficial for gut health and digestion, for cardiovascular health and well-being. So there's a few things that
Mm.
silica is important for. And so if you look at the difference between children and old people, you notice that old people have wrinkled skin, their bones are brittle, their hair may not be at its best. Sometimes there's issues with wound healing, another thing that silica is helpful for. And so you can sort of see that silica is at least part of that process
Mm.
of let's call it, lack of our optimal state when we reach old age most often. So I think, if anything, I would say it's a plug for silica, however you get that. And of course, the one way to get silica is through eating uh, plants, vegetables, and fruits. And that's because they uptake silica from the Earth's crust, and then we eat it. And so, on some level, that silica is bioavailable. Turns out that the most bioavailable way of consuming silica is in water.
Mm.
So if one were to drink high silica content water, that would definitely benefit all of those areas that I mentioned. There's one other area that I wanted to bring up that has become identified more recently, mostly around a guy called Christopher Exley, um, who wrote a book about we live in the aluminum age. And it turns out